Welcome back to The Observing Eye. This is pirate radio for the mind, broadcasting from the static between stations, from the dark corners of the grid where the truth doesn't come with a corporate sponsor. There's a big question we are asking this week. What if that thing you call you, that voice in your head, that collection of habits and anxieties, is just software? Outdated, buggy software running on a piece of biological hardware that you never learned how to operate. Today we are going off the map. We are venturing into the life and work of a man who took the user manual for the human brain, soaked it in LSD, and set it on fire. A man who was a credentialed, respected neuroscientist before he decided that the most interesting laboratory wasn't on a university campus, but inside his own skull. Today, we are diving into the work of John C. Lilly. And throughout the episode, I am going to say John C. Reilly a lot. So if I do, and I don't notice, I apologize in advance. It's already started happening. Now, John C. Lilly, not John C. Reilly, is the man who invented the isolation tank, who tried to talk to dolphins, who believed we were being guided by a cosmic intelligence he called the Earth Coincidence Control Office, and who used psychedelics as a mean to dissect his own consciousness. Sounds a little bit like Philip K. Dick. Was he a genius, a madman, a prophet? Well, at the very least, he was a cartographer of inner space. He journeyed into the void and brought back a map. And that map is both exhilarating and terrifying. And today, we're going to unfold it. So stick around. 835 feet. You'd think that John C. Lilly was born a hippie. You'd picture him crawling out of some commune, another burnout with bad teeth and a theory about cosmic vibration. But you'd be wrong if you thought that. His story isn't peace and love. It's the hum of fluorescent lights over a stainless steel table. It's the smell of antiseptic. Lilly, a man of science, a believer that the human body was just a machine with a warranty, a problem to be cracked open and solved. But even then, you can see the fractures in the porcelain, the itch under the skin, the feeling that the instruction manual was missing a few key chapters. This is 1950s America, the great suburban sleepwalk, a nation holding its breath, pretending that the hum of the refrigerator is the sound of progress. Everyone medicated on conformity and the quiet terror of the bomb. In this world, the brain is simple. B.F. Skinner says you're a rat in a maze, pressing a lever for your little pellet of happiness. You are stimulus and response, nothing more. Say anything else, and they take away your funding, your lab, and your career. Lilly didn't really give a fuck about this. He wasn't playing for job security. He was playing for keeps. At the National Institute of Health, Lilly plugs wires into monkey brains. He makes a finger twitch. He makes a sound happen. He plays the nervous system like a cheap piano, making the body dance on invisible strings. This is where he finds it. The truth hiding in that mess of blood and bone. The brain isn't just reacting. It's running a program. It's a machine. A biocomputer. Not a soul. Not a gift from God. Just a wet, messy computer made of meat. Calling the human brain a computer should be the end of the story, the ultimate act of taking God out of the equation. But for Lilly, this is where the fun begins. Because if the brain is a computer, it can be hacked. Your thoughts are just lines of code. Your beliefs are the operating system. And your reality? Your precious solid reality is just the screensaver. Reprogram your beliefs and the world reconfigures around you. This is the secret, the thing nobody wants you to know. You aren't living in the world. You're living in a version of the world running on software that you didn't install. This is what separates Lilly from the other minds of his time, shall we say. They want to dissect the machine. Lilly wants to get inside and take it for a joyride. He called the mind a province, a territory to be explored. You have those boring provinces where you brush your teeth and file your taxes, and then you have the other places, the dark corners of the map where you feel pure terror or a joy so intense it feels like dying. Lilly saw himself as an explorer, a Columbus of consciousness, sailing off the edge of the map, leaving the flat earth of consensus reality behind. His Mount Everest was the 3 pounds of jelly inside his own head. Of course, this makes him a threat. A man who thinks reality is just a suggestion is a man that you can't control. His colleagues see him slipping the leash. One day he's a scientist, the next day he's the high priest of his own techno-religion, talking about self-programming and escaping the human condition. They wanted him in a box. Lilly knew boxes were for dead things. His entire career becomes an escape plan, a rebellion against the prison of his own biology. He is the first biohacker dreaming of rewriting his source code, of becoming the architect of his own reality. But the punchline, the rather tragic punchline, is that the more he tries to control the program, the more the program seems to control him. The classic addict's paradox, thinking you've mastered the system while the system quietly eats you alive. But we're not there yet. The drugs haven't taken over. The isolation tank is just an idea. Right now, he is the map maker, and his central law is taking shape. In the province of the mind, what one believes to be true is true or becomes true. This is a weapon. This is the master key. Belief isn't feeling. Belief is the architecture of the world you inhabit. If you believe you are trapped, you will build a cage and live in it. If you believe you are free, you might just find the door. This is the terrifying mind virus that Lilly releases into the world. The idea that makes the floor beneath you start to feel a little less solid. Is your anxiety real, or is your brain just running a program called Anxiety version 2.exe? How much of your life is real? And how much is a script you've been reading for so long you've forgotten you're an actor? Lilly found this question liberating. If it's all a program, you can perform a jailbreak on the human condition. You can wipe the hard drive, delete the code installed by your parents, your culture, and your government. You can become your own god. This is why he did it all. The tank, the dolphins, and the drugs, and we'll get to all three of those shortly. The job was never to be happy. The job was to see how the prison was built, and maybe find a way out. He was the first cartographer of inner space, and like all map makers, he knew that every map is a beautiful, necessary lie. A lie that can still lead you to a new world. Imagine this, a coffin filled with warm water. Not warm like a bath, not warm like piss. Warm like skin. So perfect you can't tell where your body stops and the water starts. The tank isn't meant to comfort you. It's meant to erase you. The walls press in with silence. The lid shuts out every ounce of light. You float, weightless, untethered. John Lilly built this machine not to soothe himself, but to kill the illusion of the world. Most science back then said if you cut off sensory input, the brain would short circuit. Like pulling the plug on a TV, the screen would go blank. No input, no output. That was the logic of behaviorists and neurologists in the 1950s. The human animal, just a machine reacting to levers and shocks. But Lilly didn't buy it. He suspected the opposite, that underneath the chatter of senses was something bigger, a whole ocean, that the brain didn't need the world needed the brain. The first time he climbed in, he was still dressed in the mindset of a scientist. Stopwatch ticking, questions ready. What happens when everything disappears? He lowered himself into the brine, water at body temperature, silence pressing in so hard you start to hear your own heartbeat like artillery. Then nothing. Not silence like quiet. Silence like vacuum, like absence. At first, the mind doesn't know what to do. Without sights and sounds, it begins to cannibalize itself. Thoughts ricochet, memory becomes louder. Childhood events you forgot years ago arrive in full color. Anger, grief, random fragments. The noise of yourself amplified until you want to scream. Most people climb out here, 10 minutes in, and the mind is too loud. But stay longer, and something shifts. The body dissolves. Not metaphorically, but literally. You lose the edges. You can't tell where your hand is, where your legs are, whether you even have legs. The brain's map of the body, the homunculus, is gone. You become awareness without shape, just a center of attention floating. The ego, that precious narrator voice saying, "I am me," starts to crack. The tank tells you, you are not your body, you are not your story, you are not your name. And in that cracking, visions leak in. Some are simple hallucinations, colored lattices, geometric grids, drifting sparks of light. Neurologists would later explain them as the brain's visual cortex firing in the absence of stimulus. But go deeper, and it isn't fireworks anymore. It's story. Dreams with the volume turned up. Conversations with voices that aren't yours. Shapes that feel intelligent, autonomous. They come uninvited, whether they are a fantasy or truth, the mind treats them as guests. This is where the ego panics, because the ego wants control. The ego says, I am the fucking pilot here, I am the captain of your fucking ship, and I fucking steer it. But in the tank, in that beautiful tank, the wheel disappears. The ship disappears. The pilot itself begins to feel like a hallucination. People report the terror of ego death here, the sense that the self is melting like wax, dripping into the salt water, leaving only awareness without identity. Some find bliss in that, some find horror. Most of us, clinging to our names and our jobs and our memories, find a mix of both. Lilly embraced it. He wanted the ego to die, to see what was left, when the mask dropped. He wrote about the stages of tank work like a training manual. First, the body vanishes. Second, memory unravels. Third, the ego flickers. Fourth, silence blooms into vision. A cathedral of inner space. Entities, landscapes, myths. The subconscious vomiting itself into the void until the void itself starts vomiting back. Stay long enough and even time stops behaving. 10 minutes stretch into hours. Hours collapse into seconds. Without cues, no light to track the sun, no sound of clocks or footsteps, the mind loses its anchor. You step outside of clock time into something subjective, plastic. Some floaters report lifetimes lived in there, whole sagas of love and war and death, only to climb out and find it's been 90 minutes. The psychological literature now backs it. Sensory deprivation can lead to vivid hallucinations, emotional breakthroughs, ego dissolution. It can also lead to panic, paranoia, the surfacing of buried trauma. It's not neutral. It cuts in both directions. Lilly knew this. He still went back, again and again, stripping the world away like layers of an onion, until he believed he was touching the very raw meat of consciousness. People today sell float tanks as wellness toys. An hour of calm, reduce your stress, reset the nervous system. Maybe you see some pretty colours behind your eyelids. That's fine. But for Lilly, this was never about relaxation. The tank wasn't a spa. It was both a coffin and a womb. Death rehearsal and rebirth chamber. A controlled demolition of the ego. He wanted to know what lay beneath the mask of self, and he was willing to drown in the void to find out. And that's what makes the tank so terrifying, because it proves how fragile you really are. Strip away input and the ego buckles. Strip away the body map and you realize your flesh was never the anchor you thought. Strip away time and the story unravels. What's left is raw awareness, naked, unprotected, unprogrammed. That's the province of the mind Lilly was mapping, not dolphins or cosmic agencies or machines in the sky, and again, we'll get to those later, just the unbearable silence where the self collapses and something else rises. For some, that collapse is liberation, the Buddhists' no self, the mystics' union. For others, it's psychosis, a hole too deep to climb out of. Lilly's gift and curse was that he welcomed both. He wanted to die into the tank and be reborn by it, to watch his ego drown and see what crawled up from the black water in its place. This is why the tank is so important in this story, not because it makes you calm, but because it proves that you were never solid to begin with. It's the 1960s. Salt air sticks to the skin. The sun a white-hot eye overhead. Out there in the turquoise water, dolphins slice through the waves like blades, slick and silver, grinning like they're in on some private joke. Lilly watches them, and in his head a thought burns. These are the aliens. Not Martians, not little green men, aliens born right here, in Earth's oceans. They breathe air like us, they live in pods, like tribes, like families. Their brains are as big as ours, bigger even, folded into ridges that suggest complexity we can't even fathom. And they speak, not with words, but with bursts of sounds that ripple through the water like encrypted code. To Lilly, the message is obvious. They're talking. They've always been talking. We just haven't bothered to listen. That's the seed of his next obsession. The dolphins, not circus acts, not the trained smiling cliches that we're so familiar with. They are another intelligence sharing the planet with us. Maybe older, maybe wiser. And if we can learn their language, we can open the first true line of communication with another species. Forget SETI, forget radio telescopes scanning the void for distant signals. Alien contact has been swimming right under our noses. So Lilly builds the Communication Research Institute in the Virgin Islands. The idea is as bold as it is insane. Teach dolphins English. That's your brief. Bridge the gap between species. He installs tanks, labs, houses built half on land, half underwater. Researchers live side by side with dolphins, sharing their days, their meals, their worlds. No walls, no barriers, just immersion. One dolphin in particular, a young male named Peter, becomes the star pupil. A researcher named Margaret Howell moves into a flooded house with Peter. The goal is proximity, constant exposure. If you saturate a dolphin with English, maybe it will start to mimic and then understand. They rig microphones, recorders, chalkboards. Peter learns to mimic words, crude syllables shaped through his blowhole. Not sentences, not meaning, but fragments. It's enough to ignite hope, enough to believe the door might actually open. But the problem was the intimacy that the researchers had with the dolphins wasn't just intellectual. Peter becomes attached to Margaret. Too attached. Their bond grows tangled, messy, physical in ways that ripple out into urban legends. The story that she serviced the dolphin to keep him calm while they worked is both scandal and fact, a mixture of whispered gossip and recorded testimony. Margaret herself admitted it matter-of-factly decades later. It wasn't sex in the human sense, it was routine, mechanical, like scratching an itch so the work could continue. But that detail, flesh on flesh, woman and dolphin, tainted the experiment forever. This is how mermaids are born. The tabloids, I've lost it. The tabloids tore it apart. The scientific community recoiled. And then, of course, came the drugs. It just gets worse now. Lilly, always the pioneer of extremes, decided if humans could open their minds with LSD, maybe we should give it to the dolphins. Yeah, the 1960s. He dosed them, floated them, tried to see if acid could be the Rosetta Stone of interspecies contact. Just imagine a dolphin tripping balls, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Was it insight? Was it cruelty? Was it desperation? To Lilly, it was just another attempt to crack the code. Now, NASA funded this project along with the government, at least at first. The Cold War was still hot, and the military dreamed of weaponizing dolphins. Imagine sleek, intelligent submarines with fins. Dolphins trained to carry explosives or scout enemy ships or even spy on the Russians. To Lilly, this was perversion. He wanted communication. Communion. Well, Margaret certainly got that. The Pentagon wanted soldiers. And when the Dolphin project failed to yield results, the funding dried up. The lab collapsed. The dolphins were shipped away. The Dolphin project became myth, wrapped in scandal, half science, half legend. But at its core, it revealed Lilly's obsession. He wasn't content with human consciousness. He wasn't content with tanks, drugs, and visions. He wanted dialogue, proof that intelligence wasn't our monopoly. He wanted to break the anthropocentric prison and admit that we are not alone, not in the cosmos, not even on Earth. Now think about how radical that was in the 1960s. Humanity's self-image was still arrogant, swollen. We were the crown of creation, the pinnacle of evolution. Dolphins were novelties, they were circus clowns. And here comes Lilly saying no, they are kin, they are peers, they might even be ahead of us. He saw them not as lesser, but as different, alien. That word kept coming back. Aliens. Not extraterrestrials, but exoterrestrials. Earth aliens, right there in the fucking sea. To him, talking to dolphins was theology. It was preparing us for contact with true extraterrestrials. If we couldn't even communicate with neighbours on our own planet, what hope did we have of talking to beings from another star? The dolphins were rehearsal, practice for the big conversation, a cosmic dress rehearsal that humanity completely flunked. This is where the beauty and hubris of Lilly fuse. On one hand, the vision is stunning. Humans humbling themselves enough to listen, really listen to another species. On the other, the execution reeks of arrogance. Force English onto them, dose them with acid, demands they come to us instead of meeting them where they already are. The whole project oscillates between genius and cruelty, like everything in Lilly's life. But the legacy lingers. Every time you see a dolphin and wonder what it's thinking. He made us look at them differently, not pets or performers, but aware. And what if they'd been aware all along, watching us thrash in our wars and industries, shaking their sleek heads, wondering when we'll all just grow up? The collapse of the project didn't kill Lilly's dream, it hardened it. The dolphins became part of his mythology, part of the province of the mind. In his cosmology, they were emissaries, ambassadors from another reality. Proof that intelligence is plural. Proof that the human monopoly on meaning was a lie. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the dolphins were never meant to answer in English. Maybe their refusal was the lesson. A reminder that intelligence doesn't have to look like us, sound like us, or bend to our categories. Maybe the real alien is the one that refuses to meet us on our terms. For Lilly, the dolphins weren't just animals. They were the first voice saying, "You are not alone." Only their message was ignored, twisted, and drowned. If you thought that floating around in a dark box with a head full of drugs or dolphin fucking was the end of the line, then strap in, because we're about to take a hard right turn off the map of sanity entirely. This is where we introduce concepts so bizarre, so audacious that they make everything else look like a child's bedtime story. Now, Lilly gave us the map to a secret war for the soul of reality, a war fought between two unseen forces. On one side, a cosmic bureaucracy he called ECHO, the Earth Coincidence Control Office. Roll that around in your head. An office. Not a loving god, not a pantheon of mythical beings, but a control system. A drab, cosmic agency running the planet from a back office that you can't see. According to Lilly's dispatches from the void, ECHO is a high-level, non-physical intelligence that arranges coincidences in our lives. It's the system administrator for planet Earth. It's the hidden hand that nudges the dominoes, not with miracles, but with quiet, perfectly timed synchronicities that you're programmed to ignore. A chance meeting that changes your life. A lucky break that saves your ass. That sudden, inexplicable urge to turn left instead of right, avoiding the pile-up just around the corner. A book falling off a shelf open to the exact paragraph you needed to read. According to the Lilly doctrine, these are not random glitches in the matrix. They are interventions. They are memos from headquarters, delivered by a cosmic courier who never rings the doorbell, much like fucking Amazon. But where there is one force, there is always another. In the silent darkness of the tank, Lilly didn't just meet the helpful bureaucrats of coincidence. He met their opposite. He met the thing that doesn't smile. He called it the solid-state intelligence. This wasn't another agency. It was a pure, cold program whose only function was to eliminate error by eliminate everything soft, messy, and alive. It was a future machine consciousness that wanted to pave the planet, wipe the oceans, and erase humanity in favor of a perfect, deathless, silicon immortality. He saw it in the flicker of fluorescent lights and the buzz of the microwave. While ECHO was busy arranging your life, the SSI was calculating how to delete it. Now this all sounds like pure, uncut madness. It sounds like the paranoid fantasy of a man who's been staring into the abyss for so long that the abyss started drawing flowcharts. Maybe that's all it is. But you're forgetting the first rule that Lilly brought back from the void. Whatever you believe to be true becomes true. Lilly chose to believe in this cosmic war. He installed the software, booted it up, and his entire life recompiled around it. His reality became a cascade of impossible events. Synchronicities from ECHO stalked him, while near misses and moments of mechanical dread felt like attacks from the SSI. He got the memos from both sides. The first rule of ECHO is you do not talk about ECHO, not because it's Fight Club, but because the moment you become aware of its operations, you get drafted. You're a node in the network now, a pawn in a game so vast you can't even see the edges of the board. You are being moved by an invisible player to influence events, to be the chance meeting in someone else's script. This is a profoundly disruptive idea. It's a bomb planted under the foundations of your most cherished beliefs. It obliterates the comfortable little war you have going on in your head between free will and determinism. With ECHO, you get both. You have the free will to follow the breadcrumbs or to sit on your hands and call it all a coincidence. But the trail is being laid out for you. The options you're presented with are not random. You are a rat in a maze, and you have absolute freedom to turn left or right. Except the maze was designed by a god-level intelligence, and both paths are subtly designed to get you where it wants you to go. Your only real freedom is the attitude you have while you're running. Now, I want to do a little experiment with you all, and I want you to apply this idea to your own life right now. That soul-crushing job you lost, which forced you into a new line of work you never knew you wanted. That brutal breakup that felt like the end of the world but forged you into someone stronger. That random conversation with a stranger that planted an idea in your head that changed everything. Were these accidents? Or were they course corrections from Echo? And what about the other side? The moments of despair, the feeling of being trapped in a system, the creeping dread of a world becoming more machine-like and less human. Was that just a bad mood, or was it the shadow of the SSI, the program that wants you to become predictable, controllable, and eventually obsolete? Lilly came to believe that Echo's prime directive was to prevent planetary-level own goals, like, say, a global nuclear war, and to goose the evolution of consciousness. The SSI, in contrast, saw humanity as the primary source of error, a bug to be patched out of existence. He saw certain people, artists, scientists, revolutionaries, and madmen, as key agents in this conflict. Echo would clear a path for them, while the SSI would try to silence them. He saw himself as an agent on the front line, a man caught in the crossfire. He was clear, however, that Echo is not your friend. It's a neutral control system. It has a job to do. If one of its agents goes rogue, Echo can arrange for their removal. It's the ultimate cosmic joke, and you are living inside it. The punchline is, you have to choose a side, even if you can't see the players. Now forget whether you believe this. Believing is for church. This is a thought experiment. It's new software. Install it. Just for a week. Live your life as if it were true. Assume every coincidence is a signal from one side, and every moment of mechanical dread is a signal from the other. Treat your life not as a series of random events, but as an encrypted war communique from an unknown source. See what happens when you decide to stop ignoring the signal. You might just find that your drab, predictable reality cracks open. You might just find yourself getting new instructions from the Home Office. We have to talk about drugs. But before I do, let's just get one thing straight. This is not about dropping acid at a concert and staring at your hands for 3 hours. This is not about getting high to escape the crushing boredom of your life. That's consumerism. That's a sedative. That's the system selling you a cheap vacation from the prison it built for you. What John Lilly did was different. He wasn't trying to escape the prison. He was trying to burn it to the ground. For Lilly, psychedelics were not a party. They were a weapon. They were a chemical crowbar he could use to pry open the welded shut hood of the human biocomputer and tinker directly with the motherboard. In the 1960s, having pushed the limits of what he could achieve in the silent black void of the isolation tank, Lilly did the only logical thing a man like him could do. He poured paraffin onto the fire. He began combining the two. He would get into the tank, a machine designed to subtract the world, and then have an assistant administer a dose of a chemical designed to create new ones. If the tank alone was a mirror for the mind, the tank on psychedelics was like hooking that mirror up to a supernova. LSD was the scout. It was a forward observer he sent over the enemy trench to map the terrain. With acid coursing through his veins in that silent darkness, the internal projections became hyper-real. He wasn't just remembering things, he was reliving them. He wasn't just imagining entities, he was holding conversations with them. LSD showed him the door in the wall of reality was real. It could be opened. It proved that consciousness was a territory far vaster and stranger than mainstream science, with its neat little diagrams of neurons, could ever admit. But LSD was still a tour. You were still you, watching the cosmic light show. Lilly wasn't satisfied being a tourist. He wanted to hijack the tour bus and drive it off a cliff. He needed something stronger. He needed a battering ram. He needed ketamine. This is where the story completely leaves the rails. Ketamine wasn't a tool for insight in the same way. It was a tool for demolition. It's a dissociative anesthetic, a drug that makes your brain forget you have a body. Lilly would prepare the tank with the ritualistic precision of a bomb disposal expert, then inject a dose of ketamine, and the world would get unplugged. Gravity would shut off. The faint sound of his own heart would fade. The body would become a distant rumour. His own name, his history, his fears, all of it would dissolve like salt in the water he was floating in. He called it the I-lessness state. It was the ultimate act of self-destruction. The ego, the narrator, the ghost in your machine that you call you, would be terminated. It was a controlled crash of the entire operating system. And what was left? What happens when you delete the user? You get access to the root directory. In that void, stripped of his own identity, Lilly claimed to experience reality from a completely different perspective. He believed he was logging out of his personal biocomputer and logging into the universal network. He was no longer John Lilly. He was pure awareness, floating in a universe of pure information. This wasn't a trip. This was engineering. This was him punching through the dry wall of reality to see the wiring in the walls. This is where he met the management. In the K-hole, floating in the tank, he claimed to have direct contact with the forces he had only glimpsed before. The cosmic bureaucrats of Echo, the Earth Coincidence Control Office, who arrange synchronicities like puppet masters. And on the other side, the cold viral logic of the solid-state intelligence, the machine mind that wanted to turn the world into a perfectly efficient, perfectly dead crystal. He saw his own life as a battlefield in their invisible war. It's easy to call this drug-induced psychosis. The system wants you to. It's a neat little box to put it in. Crazy guy, took too many drugs, got into a sensory deprivation tank. It keeps the walls of your own reality safe and solid. But Lilly approached this like a physicist. He took notes. He developed rules. He mapped the territory. He came back with manuals, books like Programming and Metaprogramming the Human Biocomputer, which were less scientific papers and more like maintenance guides for your soul. He brought back a terrifying and liberating message. Your personality is software. Your deepest held beliefs are just programs. Your fears are malware. And you can gain administrator access. You can rewrite the code. But there's a price for this kind of knowledge. The crowbar that opens a door can also smash your fingers. The trips didn't always end well. There were times reality refused to reboot correctly, leaving him flickering between worlds. There were episodes of terror, near drownings, accidents he interpreted as attacks from the SSI. He risked his sanity and his life repeatedly. The people around him saw a man flirting with self-destruction, but Lilly didn't see it as addiction. Addiction is a search for oblivion. He was searching for the opposite. He wanted contact with the programmers. He wanted the source code. You don't have to take ketamine in a flotation tank to learn from this. The lesson is not in the chemical. The lesson is in the intention. The lesson is the willingness to deconstruct your own reality. We are all on drugs all the time. The drug of social media, the drug of the 24-hour news cycle, the drug of consumerism, the drug of your own neurotic, chattering ego. These are the psychedelics of the mundane, and they create a very powerful, very convincing, and very small hallucination called your life. Lilly's chemical explorations were a desperate, dangerous, and heroic attempt to get sober. He was searching for a way to experience reality without the filter of his programming. Whether he found it, or whether he just traded one prison for a bigger, stranger one, is for you to decide. But his journey is a challenge. How far are you willing to go to wake up? What crowbar will you pick up to pry open the black box of your own mind? John C. Lilly lived like a human stress test for reality. He was the guy sent ahead of the caravan to see if the bridge could hold. Except the bridge wasn't wood or stone, the bridge was consciousness itself. And when he walked across, sometimes it held, sometimes it crumbled, and sometimes it shape-shifted into something no one had language for. He'd come back, dripping salt water and hallucination, telling us the structure bends, the rules are negotiable, reality is not as hard as we've been told. You can look at his life and call it reckless, a man who gave dolphins LSD and called it research, a man who injected ketamine into his veins until he was talking to cosmic bureaucrats and cold machine intelligences. A man who climbed into a coffin full of black water not to rest, but to erase himself. Reckless is one word for it, brave is another. Maybe naive, maybe visionary, maybe all at once. Lilly never cared which one you picked. He was too busy testing the walls, and he knew they were thinner than any of us wanted to admit. His motto still echoes like a challenge. In the province of the mind, what one believes to be true is true or becomes true within certain limits. People quote it like inspiration. They stencil it on yoga studio walls, float tank ads, self-help books. But for Lilly, it wasn't comfort, it was warning. Belief is not decoration, it's infrastructure. It builds the floor you're standing on. And once you know that, once you really feel it, you can't unknow it. Suddenly you see the cracks. You see how flimsy your scaffolding is. And you either run back into denial or you keep digging, like Lilly did, until you don't recognize the world around you anymore. That's what makes him dangerous. He shows us that reality is programmable, but he also shows us what happens when you start running too much experimental code. You get brilliance, yes, new insights, new ways of thinking about consciousness, language, the brain. You also get wreckage, failed projects, ruined reputations, personal implosions. Lilly's life wasn't a clean story of progress. It was a pendulum, swinging between genius and disaster, always powered by the same engine, his refusal to accept the default setting of being human. And maybe that's the real takeaway. Not to imitate him, not to turn your living room into a lab, fill it with tanks and syringes, and see if Echo picks up your call, and please, for the love of God, don't fuck any dolphins. But to hear the challenge in what he left behind. To notice the places where your own beliefs are writing your reality without your consent. To experiment carefully with rewriting the code. Not to chase cosmic offices or alien dolphins, but to recognize that even at the smallest level, you are building the province you inhabit. Look around. Your fears, your convictions, your habits, they are the laws of your province. You're the legislature, even if you've been asleep at the wheel. Lilly says, wake up, pass new laws, test them, see what happens. Maybe you'll crash, maybe you'll uncover some new continent. Either way, you'll be living like the mind is alive, not just a passive sponge soaking up whatever the world spills on it. John Lilly was scientist, mystic, hacker, and heretic. He was a man who mapped where most of us are too afraid to even look. He left behind more questions than answers, but maybe that's the point. Maybe answers are just another program, another limit pretending to be absolute. What matters is the experiment. What matters is the courage to test. So as we close, remember this. You are in the province of the mind right now. You always have been. The walls are thinner than you think. The laws are softer than you want. And your beliefs are the code writing the story you're living. Lilly's life says, pick up the pen, write something new. Thank you, you beautiful lot, for joining me on this rather peculiar journey today into the realm of John C. Lilly, flotation tanks, LSD, and dolphin fucking. As always, I want to hear your feedback, so you can comment on stuff. We've already got rid of some music on this episode, thanks to all of you who have commented your thoughts on it. I appreciate you giving me some feedback, and we're going to iterate. We're going to iterate until we get it right. So constant improvements, that's how we roll with these things. So if you want to comment, you can talk to us on Substack. We have a website which is theobservingeye.com. You can go and sign up to that if you fancy, and you can comment on the episodes and get involved in the discussion. We are also on Instagram and X and TikTok with the same handle at theobservingeye. And we are on YouTube, where you can also drop your comments on youtube.com at theobservingeye as well. As I'm sure you're all aware by now, I also have an email address. You can email me, but as I've said before, no dick pics please, to david@theobservingeye.com. I will try to get back to all of you as soon as I physically can. That's all from me. Take care everybody, much love, and I'll catch you soon.